Hello and welcome to We Never Met, the podcast where I have interesting strangers on every single week. Today we have, I don't know how to say your last name for sure. Is it Cooney or Coney?
Cooney. That was perfect.
Yeah. Pete Cooney, Pete's Pops. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Yeah, I'm doing well. We're excited for the new season, the warmer weather to show up and get going again.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because in the wintertime, what do you guys do? I mean, I'm not afraid to eat cold things in the winter. You know, I'm never turned off from eating like desserts and things like that. But popsicles definitely seem like a more heavy summer consumed food. So in the wintertime, how do you regulate that?
Yeah, typically we kind of just stop altogether.
Okay.
And work on the plans for the next year. This year, a combination of we have a little bit more overhead, so we kept going. But people wanted us to stay open, and we've been doing like weekly new flavors for online ordering for pickup and delivery. And then we're opening one of our locations on Saturdays. And honestly, I've been surprised at the amount of people that are coming out to grab pops. So I think we can do a better job. I think in the future, we'll open a lot more in the winter, more of our locations and just more consistently. And we'll do better. This year was kind of a learning experience, but it's been better than I expected.
I mean, it's a perfect time to try something new, you know, because it's like, what else can you do with all of the stuff going on? Yeah.
I mean, we're honestly, like, I personally am as busy as ever, just working on like new plans and, you know, ways to grow the business. But on the production side, it's been fun because we're actually remaking like every one of our flavors and tweaking things and dialing things in and just getting more organized. And coming up with new flavors that have been fun to work. It's just like a slower pace, and we don't need to make anything, so we can just play around a little bit more, which is the fun part.
So we should give a little background in case people don't know. I mean, I don't know how you could not know living in Milwaukee. You guys are everywhere. It seems like in the summer. I've seen you all the time. But just for people who don't know, what is Pete's Pops and how did it start out?
Yeah. So, I mean, we make popsicles, and lately I've been calling them popsicles and ice cream bars because like our creamy ones are honestly a little bit more even like an ice cream bar, but we make interesting flavors of popsicles and ice cream bars. We have over 80 flavors. I started it in 2014. I wanted it to be a successful business, but I also just wanted to kind of have fun, and we're still going strong. So we sell from mobile units. We have 10 carts that go anywhere and everywhere. And then we have 2 physical locations. We're opening a third in West Allis that's been announced, and it's looking hopefully like a 4th one in Wisconsin as well.
Wow. And was your when you started this off initially, did you have a plan to bring it out as a business, or were you just like messing around making flavors and stuff? Or was there always an idea of this will be a business one day, maybe for me?
So I think when I started it, I was working with like corporate finance and accounting, and it was a good job. I was learning a lot, working for, you know, hardworking, smart people. But I was sitting in a cubicle, and I had, you know, the bright lights above me every day, and I was young, and it was just like it never really felt like what I wanted to be doing or the path I really wanted to be on. So I just started to get interested in other things, and I came across this concept, which I'm sure we'll talk about, you know, the first avocado popsicle. And I got intrigued by the idea of this as a business. And I kind of just talked about it and joked about it, honestly, for like a year or two with my friends. And I would make them in my kitchen, and I would have the name Pete's Pops, and it always made people laugh or smile. But, you know, it takes some guts. It's scary to put yourself out there to start a business, and let alone a popsicle business in Wisconsin.
Right. Yeah.
As an accountant. So I don't know how serious I was, but I very vividly remember, like, I just kind of started to get annoyed with myself that I had talked about it for so long. And when I talked about it, the smiles and the laughs were a little bit harder to get because everyone had heard me talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just kind of said, like, okay, I either need to stop talking about this or do it. And I did it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, you have to like pick a lane. Either this is done or I'm going to go all in for it. And so were you working then full time when you started developing this business still?
Yeah. Yep. So I worked at that point. I was working in accounting and finance for the Bartolotta Restaurant Group. So okay. I had started to slowly steer my career towards food, which was a huge passion and interest of mine. And being, working in accounting and finance for them was a lot more interesting than the role I had before. So I was getting into the world. And when I decided to launch Pete's Pops, I figured I could do it on nights and weekends in the summer. So, 3 or 4 month commitment, nights and weekends. It was just kind of what I was going to do that summer for fun and extra. And, in my head, I figured I was surrounded by all these amazing people that knew what they were doing, and I could learn from them, or maybe they would want to get involved, or I could take what I did for them and apply it to Pete's Pops. So it just kind of made sense. It lined up to do it as a side business at that time.
Yeah, you talked about your interest in food. Was that always around? Why did you land on like popsicles and not other, even like dessert things like custard or things like that? Why was it popsicles for you?
I mean, the interest in food, that's one of the reasons it gave me the kind of courage to go for it, was that I started looking back in my life, and all of my memories as a child, my first memories, my childhood memories, they're literally almost all food related. I started to think back on that and just said, okay, this isn't just a fleeting interest. Like maybe I should lean into this. And then for popsicles, the concept of Pete's Pops just felt like something that I could figure out. I didn't need to be a classically trained chef. Pete's Pops is fun and it's a cute business, but it's also a really good business, like from a economic standpoint. So just everything about the concept was exciting to me. And I thought I could do it, where, at that stage, if I wanted to open a restaurant, I just didn't know enough. I wasn't talented enough. I didn't have enough money. Pete's Pops was a perfect concept to kind of start small and grow slowly.
What are some of those food memories that you have from like childhood? What is the ones that stick out for you?
My best friend growing up lived across the street. And when I was a kid, I would wake up really early and eat breakfast at my house. And then when he woke up, I would go over to his house and eat breakfast again with him and his family.
Double breakfast.
Yeah. Double breakfast. And then like I remember for my birthday when I was like 6 years old, his parents gave me a gift, and it was just a box full of all of my favorite foods from their house.
That's awesome.
Foods that they bought that my parents didn't buy, but I loved them. And like, so that's one that just always makes me laugh. Another one, when I was a similar age, little kid, my aunt had gotten married, and I was like a little 5-year-old running around, first wedding I'd ever been to. And I remember at the rehearsal dinner, there was an Italian restaurant, and they were just having fried calamari. The groomsmen like dared me to eat it, and I just started crushing all this calamari, and I was like famous. And these groomsmen loved this kid who was just eating fried calamari. And I was a little kid, and so stuff like this, I could go on, but those are a few of them.
When you were little like that, were you making like businesses? I find that a lot of the time when people like create and start businesses as they're older, they always had some sort of like entrepreneurial idea in their mind of like they want their life to be sort of like this. Was that the case for you or no?
I would say no. Well, I wasn't entrepreneurial in the way that I had a bunch of little businesses when I was a kid. Yeah. Like I did a lemonade stand. I think I sold like hemp bracelets or something in middle school for a hot minute. But no, I wasn't doing a ton of businesses. I mean, I was in sports, and I think one thing I've found, and I've actually shared this with a few other friends that have businesses, is having a business and being in entrepreneurship. It hits on a lot of the same things that we miss about being, high school athletes or college athletes. It's some of that competitiveness, some of that like leadership capability, leadership needs and challenges and overcoming things. So I was into sports as a kid, and I think having a business is about the closest thing for me that can kind of hit on some of those same things that I enjoyed about sports without actually being a professional athlete.
When you graduated college and you like started working in the accounting and finance field, do you think that helped you a lot for your business, like exposing you to the side of business that maybe a lot of people don't want to think about, the numbers and like the economics and things like that? Do you think that gave you a leg up at least?
Totally. I think it's huge. For a long time, Pete's Pops was fun and it was kind of successful, but I wasn't sure if I was going to devote all my energy to it. And so what I did know was that I think there's a lot of people in the food world that don't have that kind of accounting and business background. And there's also a lot of accounting and finance and business people that get into the food world that don't have any knowledge or passion for food. And so whether it was going to be Pete's Pops or something else, I started saying at some point, like, well, I think I can be valuable because I love food. I know a little bit about it. I'm passionate about it. And I know the business side. And I think that's kind of rare. So it helped me a ton. Like from the start, I took a Bartolotta restaurant P&L statement. And from the start for Pete's Pops, like I built all of our financial statements exactly like they use for, Lake Park Bistro and Harbor House. And it was like a trial. It was like a fun experiment for me to treat Pete's Pops that seriously, even when it was nothing. And that was a good starting point. It was a good foundation.
Because when you were working there, was there a specific turning point for you where you started taking this? I know you said sort of from the beginning you were taking it seriously with those things, but was there like a turning point in your brain where you're like, this is actually bigger than I thought it could be? Because I mean, the amount of traction that you get online, the amount of people and customers you interact with, your growth is pretty amazing over the course of time that you started it. So was there a moment or time or something that happened where you're like, oh, this is bigger than I thought it was going to be?
Honestly, I've always said, well, I don't know. I don't know how big it can get and how successful it can get. I believed in it. And where we are now, I imagined it, but I knew it was possible. But at the same time, I always would kind of discount it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and then the other thing I was going to say is it's amazing how the yard, it's a terrible thing for entrepreneurs, I'm sure, or business owners, but the yard markers keep moving. So like every time I hit a goal that previously would have seemed impressive, immediately it sucks. I never enjoy it. I'm like, okay, well, what's next? What's the next goal? So I think that's what keeps me a little bit motivated, honestly, is pretty quickly after we hit a new kind of level, I just want to try to get it to the next level. But also I did it as a side project for 7 years and I've only been full-time on it for 6 months. Right. So I think now is actually the time where I'm really getting excited and really giving it all my effort and energy and I'm pretty pumped up about it.
So when you were working and doing it part-time, what aspects of the business now that can you do now that you have more free time that you couldn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, one, my life is a little more balanced, so that's just nice. But I think it's maybe we were good. Like when I didn't have all my time into it, I was good about maximizing the time I did put into it. But I think now it's more like consistency. Like now every day I'm focused and I have one thing, many things within Pete's Pops, but one overarching thing that I care about. And so the planning is better. We're going to take more risks. We're going to bite off a little bit more because I know that I'll be around to, handle it or deal with any challenges. So I think it's just the consistency of now every day I wake up and I know the goal, and it's to make Pete's Pops as best as it can be.
Yeah, because was there a moment, because you said you did it recently, so was it like a financial decision that you're like, oh, I can actually live now and like do this? Was it like some other decision you just wanted to put more of yourself into it? Because like 7 years doing it part-time, I guess, in your free time is a long time to do something in your free time, So what was the decision leading up to going full-time?
COVID played a huge part in it. So probably financially for the last probably about a year and a half, I could have come on full-time for me to like make a living, and the business like it was big enough that I could have come on, but I just wasn't fully ready to do it yet. And then going into 2020, I was the controller at the Pabst Theater Group. So I loved that job. I loved working over there. A really great job. And Pete's Pops was going well. And going into the season, it was all starting to be kind of a lot. And then COVID hit. And so for that business, live music industry, the most hard hit that you could, even worse than the food industry. And so I helped navigate them through, like we applied for the PPP loans and we had to make a ton of hard decisions. And I was very focused there. And at the same time, Pete's Pops lost all of our business going into the year, and we had to survive. Pete's Pops had to survive, and we opened a new shop and we did some things. And Pete's Pops was succeeding in 2020. We weren't sinking. And in June, I just went to my bosses at the Paps Theater Group and I said, hey, at this point, you guys are going to have a long road back and you're going to need 100% focus. And I don't think I can give that to you anymore because I really want to help Pete's Pops get through this year. And I think it's just time for me to go full time with Pete's Pops. And they were super understanding. And I stayed for another 3 months. I rolled out of there and now I'm full time with Pete's Pops. And so it was a long answer, but COVID year was such a challenge. And then we got lucky, but we did some things right that it kind of just made it obvious to me that I should be doing it full time.
Yeah. And talking about your actual like flavors, talking about you have like 80 flavor combinations and different popsicles. Where does the innovation, does that come from your mind? Is there other people that you're working with that submit ideas? Because some of them are out there. Some of them are like, I don't know if I like this. And then I'm sure when people eat it, they're like, wow, this is really good, but I did not expect it. Like the sweet corn and blackberry swirl, which is what one I saw on your website. Where does that innovation come in? Where do you think of those combos? Are there other ones that don't make it that are just like, oh, this might be really good, but this is actually awful together?
I mean, yeah, they come from all over. Like I do think of a lot of them. That's the most fun part for me. It's how it all started was the exciting flavors and new flavors and unexpected flavors. So I do think of a lot, but we have other staff members that think of some great ones. Customers give us ideas. We see other things out there in the world that we try to recreate. So really all over. I mean, we're always thinking about what can we add to the menu to be exciting and new and draw people in. As far as like mess ups, the good thing is, we start with good ingredients, so you can't mess them up too much. There's definitely been some misses. I think like early on, we tried to do one that we were going to call taxi cab, and it was pineapple, yellow peppers, and tomato. And it just wasn't. And we added some sweetness and I think a little bit of heat, but it was just bad. It was like a gazpacho pot, which people request, but it just wasn't very good. And then the other one that I remember, which was we did a chocolate covered potato chip that was really good. And I love Cheez-Its. Cheez-It's one of my favorite snacks. And so I thought, well, if we did the chocolate covered potato chip, like we can probably do a Cheez-It pop too. And we did that and it was just absolutely disgusting. And
what did it taste like? Cheez-Its?
Yeah. It was like, we wanted to get like, a sweet and salty thing going on, but I think it was just it wasn't sweet enough or salty enough. It just kind of tasted like Cheez-It ice cream. We didn't get it right. We probably could get it, but we gave a few away, and there was a few people that liked it. Like they ate it and they thought it was gross, but then they just kept eating it. I like this. So that's fun. That's the most fun part, is just coming up with new stuff.
Because is there like a food sciencey mindset about like what flavor combinations can go together and taste good, or is there like a basis for that?
Yeah. So I have a book it's called The Flavor Bible. A lot of people in the food world have it. And it's just basically a giant encyclopedia of all different ingredients. And then underneath the ingredients, it lists everything that pairs well with them. And it's like, it'll list it if it pairs well, and it'll bold it if it's really good, and it'll bold it and capitalize it if it's like the best pairing. And so I read that. That's like a thing that I sit on my couch and I flip through almost every night, or when I'm bored. That's a starting spot. If we get some really good fruit, we'll go there, flip through and find ideas for what can pair with it. And then the other science part is like, we kind of have a few base recipes, and now we're pretty good at then taking whatever base recipe goes with our idea and tweaking it from there.
Yeah, because that's one of the things I feel like that makes you guys stick out for most people, is that you're willing to take those risks and throw out a Cheez-It flavor one and just see how it goes. I can't believe I haven't asked this yet, and I don't really know how it works, but how are popsicles even made? Like, how do you make popsicles? Is it pretty easy?
Yeah, we take it probably more seriously than we should, but it's not rocket science, that's for sure. So for a fruit-based popsicle, we make all different flavors of simple syrup. So simple syrup is just sugar and water boiled together until it's a syrup, and the sugar dissolves. We have like 10 different flavors of simple syrup. So we have a lemongrass simple syrup and a mulling spice and jalapeno and on and on and on. And then, everything starts with fresh fruit, simple syrup, and usually salt. Salt helps bring flavors out, but also it helps when we freeze it. It helps. It's called freezing point depression, and it helps freeze the popsicles really smooth. Mm-hmm. And that's why ours have like maybe a little more professional texture than like if you did it in your home freezer. So we make a liquid base, and then they pour into stainless steel molds. And then we have a giant machine that's filled with something called propylene glycol, which is basically a food grade antifreeze. And that liquid gets down to negative 25 degrees Celsius. And we stick the molds in the machine, and it freezes the popsicles in 30 minutes. And so we just run them, when we're producing, we'll do multiple runs through that machine every day.
Like when you were starting out, were you doing them in your freezer, or did you like learn all this before you even started trying to do popsicles?
No, yeah, we had to work up to that. So when I started, I bought $10 plastic molds off Amazon, and the base part was pretty similar. And then I'd have to pour into these molds, and I'd have to stick them in a walk-in freezer. And then I'd have to wait 2 hours till they partially froze. And then I'd have to go stand in the walk-in freezer to put the sticks in.
Oh, sure.
And you'd have to get the sticks just right so they didn't fall over. And then the next day I'd have to come in and pull them out by hand.
Yeah, because I imagine they get freezer burn if you leave them in a freezer for too long, right?
If you don't touch them, like if you just leave them in the freezer and they're sealed, they don't really get freezer burn. But yeah, those early days was incredibly manual.
Yeah.
Like I remember the first we did a music festival. We did the Eaux Claires music festival, and it was like our first big event. And I had to make the most popsicles I'd ever had to make in a short amount of time. And I was just in the freezer pulling popsicles out for like a week straight, basically 24 hours a day. And when I left for the music festival, all of my knuckles were bloody from like popping the popsicles out.
You're just in the freezer with a parka, just like putting things on.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I bet you're glad that it has morphed into what it is now, that you don't have to do it as manually.
Well, when we got the machine, so I bought the machine used from another popsicle company, and now we're on our third machine. We keep getting a bigger one, and we keep scaling up. But the first one we bought, I remember the first day we used it, and I had like a 2-person staff at the time, and we did it on a Sunday afternoon. We used to do all our production on Sunday afternoons, like all day. And we had fun. It was like a fun thing. The first day we used it and we pulled those pops out, it was just a really exciting moment. You didn't know if it was going to work, and you didn't really know what you were doing. And they came out looking so perfect and professional, and it was really fun.
We alluded to it before, but like the inspiration for wanting to start was that like avocado popsicle at a farmer's market. Was that because you're in St. Louis right now? Was that in St. Louis, right?
It was. Yep.
What was it about that specifically? Was it just the fact that you didn't expect it to be good, or like, that it was avocado and you're like, popsicle, what? And you thought maybe you could do that, or what was the inspiration for that?
I mean, I was thinking about all this stuff before we talked today. I remember it so perfectly. So we went to this really cool farmer's market in St. Louis with my family, and we're just strolling around, and we get to this popsicle vendor, and there was a line of people, and everyone's happy and smiling and having a good time. And I ordered this avocado popsicle, and almost immediately I was like, holy cow, this is so good. And then the girl next to me was like, yeah, check out that one. And I had like a blackberry goat cheese or something. And then the girl next to her said, yeah, there's a company in North Carolina called Loco Pops, and everyone loves it. It's the coolest thing. And then the person next to her was like, yeah, there's a company in New York called Las Paletas or New Yorkina. And like everyone was like, all these people were like, I've heard of this, I've heard of that. And it was just, everyone started talking and joking and smiling. It was just fun. And so I went home and Googled those companies that I heard, and I looked at their business. I was like, this is so cool. This is so fun. No one was doing it in Milwaukee. No one was doing it around the Midwest. And from there, I just started playing around, and the idea was in my head, and it just seemed like a really fun, cool business to start.
Yeah, because is there something about popsicles that lends themselves better to like combining things and experimentation rather than other foods? Because like sometimes I think the weird thing about the popsicles is like you read the flavors and you're like, can these things go together? And then you try it and you're like, oh yeah, it does. But if you just like took those two things and put them together outside of a popsicle, it probably wouldn't necessarily be as awesome, So is there something about a popsicle that like blends those two really well?
I think we can get inspiration from a lot of things, like cocktail menus, right? If you go to a cocktail bar, those have really cool, interesting, layered flavors. Ice cream, there's all these great ice cream companies that have hundreds of flavors. There's other desserts. So for the popsicle, we can get inspiration from all these other different items. So I just think it can blend together in a lot of different ways. So the options are kind of endless.
Yeah, I feel like there's something about like desserts that make things easier to blend for some reason, that make flavors easier to come together. Like, I don't know. As the business started growing more and more, and I want to talk about this too, because you won the RevUp MKE competition in 2016, which you were still working full time and doing this part time. Did winning that competition at all put you in like a different mindset or trajectory of like, because you won money, I'm assuming too as well, right?
Yeah, we did. We won money. Well, won that contest was great, and that organization is great, the Near West Side Partners. And it was just cool. It was sponsored by Miller and Harley and Marquette University and like all these super impressive companies. And we had to stand on the stage at the rave and pitch your idea to just really smart, impressive people. So I think it helped me take it more seriously. And then we did win. We won a little bit of money, but even more than that, we committed to move our business into the Near West Side. And so before that point, we had a shared commercial kitchen. And I had bounced around because commercial kitchens close, or the landlords are jerks, or they raise your rates or whatever. So I had moved commercial kitchens a number of times. And until you had a home, like for me, it was kind of easy to just sign up for 1 year at a time. And once I won that contest, part of the deal was like I committed to move my business into the Near West Side. And then a year later, we had a physical production facility where I hired an architect and we built it out the way we wanted, and we opened a storefront. And so that just made the whole thing like way more serious and legit. And I couldn't say that it was just a 1 year, deal for my own time. It was, we hired a full-time person and there was no backing away from me. So for me, who had 1 foot in kind of my career and 1 foot in my business, it pulled me in even more.
Was that your first production facility then? Like
our first dedicated to ourselves. Yeah. It was our first home.
Cause then you opened the location in Bayview too as well, right? It was that.
We don't make anything there. We make everything in our production facility on Vliet Street, which also has a walk-up window. And then we have the Bayview walk-up window. So we just stock that twice a week, but we don't produce anything at that facility.
With all the growth that has happened, you have like carts all over Wisconsin. You're talking about going to music festivals and selling your pops, and you have a permanent production facility. You have a location in Bayview. Where do you see it going in like the future, or where do you want it to go to keep growing and expanding?
Yeah, that's what I've been working on this winter. It's exciting. So I'm starting to view the business kind of as two things. There's the local Wisconsin, maybe Midwest, like pop shops, what we're doing now, where we have the carts, we have the pop shops, people come to us, and we want to be a really fun and important part of the community, every community we're in. So we're looking at Madison. I could see us, opening more shops in Wisconsin and even outside of Wisconsin, but that's kind of one thing. And then the other thing, which is going to be a lot more challenging, and we're kind of at square one, is more like a CPG national retail brand company. And that means we're going to launch an e-commerce site that allows us to ship pops nationwide. And hopefully we can get some traction there. And then we're going to look to get into first local, regional retailers, and ultimately the goal would be national retail. But that's just such a hard world. And even if we do everything right, there's no guarantee that that's going to work out. So yeah, that's the future. I mean, so I think the pop shop part of the business, especially in Milwaukee, it feels like if we don't mess up, we're going to be around for a long time. And I'd love to open more shops in other communities so more people can have that. And that's going to keep going. And then we're going to give it a go at this other stuff, which is going to be a big challenge.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big challenge, but I think it would be super cool to see your pops in California or something, or, for me personally, it's interacting with the brand and stuff like that and seeing the carts out as a consumer. It's very accessible, it feels like, and fun, as you said. Do you think that's why the business has grown so rapidly and people have positive things to say? Because I mean, any startup has the ability to fail, but yours has kept growing. So what do you think it is about how the customers are reacting to your business?
Well, Milwaukee's very supportive. So people have given us a shot from the start. And I used to think our pops were good, but
they are.
I still do, but I used to think it was more of like our customer service. Just it's a fun summer thing, and we were at the right places. People knew the story and they supported it, and that's certainly true. But I do think we put a huge emphasis on how we make people feel, whether it's at our carts or at our stores. It's a lot of fun for us to provide really good customer service and get to know people. It's very genuine. I love it, but everyone that works for Pete's Pops loves it, and we talk about it a lot. But I do think, I'll tell you, I've been ordering pops from other companies and having them shipped to me all winter to test out shipping. And I'm now a bigger believer that our product is really, really good. We have some recipes that we've developed. I don't know what other folks are doing behind the scenes, but our stuff is really, really good. And I think people are responding to that.
No, I agree. All of the pops I've had are very good. And I do enjoy the interaction with the people. It just, there's something about getting, just like having this one-on-one conversation where there's not like a barrier of like a counter or something when there's just like a cart, that's really nice.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's addictive for us. We make these things and we get to hand them directly to someone and watch them try it and be happy and smile right away and get feedback right away. And they tell us if they like it, hopefully. And it's a ton of fun. It's a low risk transaction. It's not too expensive. It doesn't take a long time. It's just kind of a fun, easy thing to enjoy. That's how we feel. And it seems like the customers feel the same way.
Yeah. And you talked about, during the pandemic and when you like sort of left your job to do this full time, that Pete's Pops was like doing really well. So how have you guys pivoted during this time where, I mean, it's been tough for everyone, but especially for food-based businesses as well. And as you said, live music venues too.
2020, I'm an old man and I remember 2020, it's just going to be so many memories and so many things to go over, Pete's Pops related and not Pete's Pops related. But it was a crazy, challenging, but ultimately rewarding year for me and for us. When the pandemic hit, we were just getting ready to open the Miller Park Brewers season. We had a booth in Miller Park. And so that's a huge undertaking, like just logistically. So our wheels are kind of just getting in motion. It's March in Wisconsin. It's not nice yet, but the Brewers open at the end of March. Mm-hmm. And then the pandemic hit, and we, at first I thought, okay, this is fine. Like this is going to go through. And by the time like our real busy season starts, it'll be gone and we'll have a normal summer. And that was my first thought. But in an effort, I don't know, for us, but also it just seemed like the right thing to do for people at the time. We launched online ordering and delivery, which we had never done in the past. So I signed up for a service, figured out how to get our menu online, figured out how to add a link to our website. And in late March, we started doing online ordering and door-to-door delivery. And immediately, like, that was way better than I ever expected. And tons of people were buying boxes of Pops. And we kept doing that through April. And then when it became more clear that like our music events were gone and our farmers markets probably weren't going to happen and street festivals weren't going to happen, the big thing that we did was we opened the Bayview spot. The Bayview location was never in our plans at all. But I live in Bayview, and I was walking around literally trying to think about how we were going to survive because we lost almost all of our business. And I walked past this little dumpy looking shed, and I thought people are going to be walking around with nothing to do all summer, and we need to find a way to survive. So I called there was a little for rent sign, and I called it, and very, very quickly we gave that location a spit shine and opened up a walk-up window, and it was very, very successful. It made people happy in the neighborhood, and it was safe. That's the other thing why I think we had a good year was our product. We got lucky. Our product is very safe. We have no indoor seating. It's grab and go. I only need one staff member to work it at a time, so it's safe for my staff. We provided the whole staff with masks and required that they were worn. We obviously required our customers wear masks, but because we don't have any indoor seating, we were able to sell our product. We didn't have to close. And then Milwaukeeans were super supportive of local businesses, and that helped a lot too. And I would basically every week say, okay, is this the week it all falls apart? Because we just said we're going to do the best we can. We're going to stay safe first, and then we're just going to do the best we can and see how it goes. And literally every week I would check in and say, okay, we're doing okay. But I never believed it was going to stay for the whole year, but it did. We had we lost a lot of our business, but we made it up in other ways.
The Bayview shed was sort of a pandemic savior in a way for you guys.
For us, it was for us. And it was, the cool thing was we got all these emails from customers saying that it was the happiest part of their summer. And
awesome.
Thank you for opening, and that it was the only thing that they could do with their families. And their summer tradition was a popsicle walk with the dog. And that was it was really cool to get those emails. And the spot itself feels like the type of place that's been there for longer than a year. And it feels hopefully like the type of place that'll be there for a long time.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that brings me to my next question is like, you're at home in St. Louis right now. How has the reaction been from like friends and your parents where you're at right now with your business and seeing it grow as well? Did they think it was going to be a hit from the beginning, or do they think you were just messing around? Like what has their reaction been like?
Oh, they love it. I mean, my dad walks around in a Pete's Pop shirt.
That's awesome.
Like every day, I'm pretty sure. They love it. They've been supportive. My friends have been supportive. I mean, I dealt with for a long time, when you open a popsicle shop as a side business, you get some side eyes and some jokes, but as I've worked hard and we've grown and become a part of the Milwaukee community, I think everyone's been supportive. And so the fun thing for us in St. Louis is one of my best friends down here, my buddy Tim, who I grew up playing basketball with, he and his wife own a pretzel business. It's East Coast style pretzel business called Pretzel Boys. And they're very successful down here and very similar to Pete's Pops, that a lot of families and family friendly business. And 2 years ago, he called me up and he wanted to add a product for the summer for him, his slow season. And so we signed a license deal to bring Pete's Pops to St. Louis.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So he has our recipes and our branding and a food truck down here. And so Pete's Pops is now in St. Louis as well, which is super fun for me. Like, I have little nephews that get to go try it, and it's just fun to work with someone I grew up with, and to see it in my hometown is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I also just wanted to talk about this before we go. You mentioned that like starting a business and sort of these entrepreneurial ventures fill the void a lot from people who played sports. Like, what do you think that is? What do you think that's filling? Like, what do you think it is that's similar between sports, playing them, and starting a business?
I think the biggest thing for me is like the teamwork aspect, building a team, having to work together as a team, sometimes having to motivate the team, manage, lead the team. That's for me feels the most like sports. When there's a challenge or something goes wrong and I have to talk to everyone on staff about how we're going to navigate or fix it or work our way through it. And then if you do that, that whole kind of cycle feels a lot like a sports team. And, you know, I'm just happen to be, I grew up playing sports. Other people might draw a line to other things. So, you know, that's just kind of how it reminds me of some of my other experiences.
For sure. Talking to people, there's some people that are just very, it seems like based on their prior experiences, very naturally apt to lead and talk to people. And as you said, like manage people and work through hard situations. Did you find that it was a very easy thing for you to sort of hit the ground running with when you started getting employees and having to do that? Or was it something that you had to learn over time?
You definitely learn a lot over time.
Yeah.
I think I might have a little bit of that in me, but it's a challenge and I've made a lot of mistakes and different people need to be communicated with different ways. Mm-hmm. I do love it. I love that part of it. You know, I think it's probably one of those things where you're always getting better and you're never going to do everything right. But that's one of my favorite parts of the business is building the team and making the team up and working with them and growing and meeting challenges together. Like on our online order page, and I think on my personal Facebook page, it's a picture of our team picture from 2019. We didn't get to take one last year, obviously, because we couldn't get together. But yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of the business is having a team and, you know, all sorts of characters and we've given away a couple of college scholarships to these impressive, you know, I have a former staff member who's she goes to Juilliard. She's probably going to be a world famous actress someday, and all these just crazy, impressive people that have worked for Pete's Pops, and it's just ridiculous. And kids that have now, you know, they used to be, you know, 9 years old at the farmer's market, and now they're working Pete's Pops at our window. And I've watched these kids grow up, and I know their parents, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that has to be a super rewarding part of the business, is just seeing these people that are a part or were once part of your business succeed and go on to do really cool things too. Yeah,
I knew I was missing. We have another kid who's probably going to end up being a Major League Baseball player who I used to coach 7th grade basketball. Like half the team ended up working for me once they got old enough. And now some of those kids are now in college, and one of them is like the best baseball player I've ever seen. And he's probably going to get drafted into the major leagues someday. And maybe he'll give Pete's Pops a shout out. I don't know. Or
sponsored by Pete's Pops. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get a leg up when we try to sign him to an endorsement deal. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's really cool. It's wild. It makes me feel old, but
in a cool way though.
It's fun. Yeah. I do. I never imagined I would enjoy that part of not only the kids that work for us, but also the kids that are our customers. Like at all the farmers markets, I know these families, and that was one of the bummers of 2020. The farmers markets happened, but everyone obviously was wearing masks, including us, but also they didn't let kids into them. And it was just like the first week I just remember that used to be so fun. The first week of the farmers market where all the families rush up to you and the parents say that the kids have been bugging them about Pete's Pops for months, and the kids are a foot taller. And I never would have imagined that would be one of the things I love so much, but it definitely is.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. The experiences of like being part of the community and interacting with people is really cool to see. So to wrap up here, where can people find information about Pete's Pops and follow you guys on like social media and your website and things like that?
Yeah, totally. Well, we're super active on social media. Instagram is just at Pete's Pops. Facebook, we have a page. We just are trying to figure out TikTok. I
have not figured it out, but
yeah, we had fun with it actually. We did our first TikTok videos, and I have to say it's really good.
So go check that out.
Yeah, it took a long time, and I'm not excited about spending more time on my phone than I already do, but
sure.
But it was fun, and we did a good job at it, and so we're going to try to keep going there. But yeah, and we have a website, petespops.net, and those are the places. Instagram is we're most active on Instagram, but we're all over.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time. I'm a customer and a fan of the business, so I appreciate you taking the time, and it's an amazing thing for the community, and you're an awesome guy. So thank you so much.
Cool, man. Thanks. I appreciate you having me. I said this to you before we started recording, but you've interviewed so many really cool and impressive people. So I'm really honored to be on that list.
Now you're on with all the other impressive people. You're one of them. So, thank you so much.
Cool. Have a good one, man.